The wind screamed over the Montana hills, raw and wild, like a beast in pain, flinging dirt into every nook of Caleb Thornton's homestead. The land rolled out vast and lonesome, just brittle grass and whirlwinds spinning like troubled ghosts. At 45, Caleb stood on his porch, his frame hardened by years of toil. His face was etched by the sun, his jaw set, his heart heavier than the endless sky above. 4 winters had gone by since fever claimed Eliza, leaving him with only livestock, creaking timbers, and a quiet so deep it weighed on his soul. The hired hands drifted in and out, but come evening, Caleb faced only the lonesome wail of wolves. Nights hit hardest. He'd sit at the kitchen table, staring at Eliza, a shawl still draped over a chair, the air so still it seemed the house itself held its breath. That solitude finally pushed him to pen a letter. Caleb was T1 for grand dreams, but necessity trumped pride. A marriage broker in St. Louis promised privacy and fitting wives for men on the frontier. Caleb's hand was steady but plain as he listed his needs. Slender, dutiful, industrious, aged 26 to 36. A woman who would grumble when the creek ran dry or blizzards shut them in for weeks. He pictured her quiet, petite like Eliza, with deft hands and a gentle tone. Someone to fill the hollow spaces Eliza left behind. He told himself it was about love. Love was a privilege. This was about enduring. The agency said 3 months until his bride would arrive. That thought carried him through countless chores. Fixing the warped gate, patching the leaky roof, chasing rats from the larder. Every nail he drove was a step toward change. He even tried to imagine joy returning to the house. But truth be told, it was Eliza's laughter that lingered, not the voice of someone new. When the day came, Caleb donned his finest shirt, stiff enough to chafe his neck. He reached Pine Hollow Station early, pacing until the station master joked about his nerves. His hands grew clammy as passengers stepped off the train. A merchant, a few cowhands, a preacher gripping his hymn book. His heart sank as the crowd thinned. Had she backed out? Had the agency swindled him? Then she appeared, the last to step down, clutching a battered suitcase. Caleb's breath hitched, not quite as he'd hoped. She was the delicate slip of a woman he'd imagined. She was sturdy, broad-shouldered, her traveling gown tight at the seams. Her face was striking, not fragile, with slate-blue eyes steady beneath auburn curls escaping her bonnet. She looked like she'd defaced tempests and come out stronger. "Mir Thornton?" Her voice carried a trace of Scottish burr, edged with New York grit. "Miss Callahan," he replied, tipping his hat. He took her bag, it was heavier than it looked, and led her to the wagon. She climbed up without his help, adjusting her skirts with ease. The wagon creaked under their weight, and Caleb wondered if the wheels would hold for the 12-mile ride home. Silence hung heavy between them. Finally, Fiona Callahan spoke. "The agency said you lost your wife. 4 years this spring," he said. "I'm sorry for it." He nodded, his throat tight. He wanted to ask her things, but the words felt wrong. She seemed to sense it. "They told me you had specific wants," she said evenly. He flushed. He'd been clear in his letters. Slender, dutiful, industrious. "I am 29, she went on, meeting his gaze with defiance. "I came west for a life beyond what New York offered. That's the truth, Mr. Thornton. I am not slender, and I won't make excuses for it." Her words hit like a gust. Caleb kept his eyes on the rutted trail, gripping the reins to steady the churn in his chest. He could already hear Jim Larson chuckling. Caleb Thornton, choosy as ever, got a bride nothing like he ordered. At the homestead, Scout, his old hound, bounded out, baying at the stranger. Fiona knelt, offering her hand, and the dog wagged like he'd found a friend. Caleb felt a strange pang at her soft tone, so like Eliza. When she'd spoken to the animals. Inside, Fiona surveyed the sparse furniture and bachelor-esque clutter without a word. She brushed Eliza's shawl but left it hanging. When she stepped into the kitchen, rolling up her sleeves and asking for the pots, Caleb felt unease rise. This stranger was already filling his home with her presence, her scent, her movements. "I'll check the stock," he mumbled, retreating to the door. She did turn, just nodded. "Supper'll be ready." Outside, Caleb gulped the sharp air. What had he done? He wanted a quiet, slender bride to fit Eliza's shadow. Instead, he got a woman with a voice like iron and hands strong enough to split logs. A woman who could probably wrangle a steer if needed. The neighbors would snicker. The whole town would murmur. Rancher wanted a slim bride, got a sturdy one instead. He saddled his horse and rode into the dusk. as if he could outrun the reality waiting in his house. Behind him, smoke curled from the chimney, the first sign of life in months. But Caleb did look back. He wasn't ready. Something in that silent house was shifting, and he was sure he could face it. Hey, pause for a second. What do you think of Caleb and Fiona so far? Drop a comment with your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. The first week felt like living with a storm that would break. Every morning, Caleb woke in the barn to Fiona's steady footsteps inside. By the time he came in, coffee was brewed, breakfast waiting, not just jerky and stale bread, but eggs, sausage, cornbread, real food. They ate in silence, the clink of forks louder than words. Fiona worked harder than Caleb expected. She scoured years of grime from the floors, hauled water from the creek without stopping, netted dough with firm, sure hands. She patched clothes, cooked, and cleaned with a resolve that made Caleb both admire and resent her. He caught himself watching her strong arms chopping wood, her skirts swaying as she carried buckets. She was capable, efficient, everything practical, but not what he'd asked for. One night, thinking she could, he muttered, "I wanted a wife, not a plow horse." Her hands stilled over the sewing in her lap. She fixed him with eyes sharp as steel. "Would you prefer a frail thing who wilts at a cut finger? That one, to keep your herd alive or your roof from leaking?" Her words stung because they were true. He turned away, face burning, but her voice followed. "Maybe figure out what you truly want, Caleb Thornton." In town, the gossip began. At the Mercantile, Mrs. Whitaker eyed Fiona with a smirk. "So you were Caleb's bride. Robust gal, aren't you? You need it out here." Fiona smiled, her words cutting. "Aye, a woman should be built for the life she has chosen. Don, you think, Mrs. Whitaker?" The shopkeeper's jaw snapped shut. Caleb nearly grinned but hid it, hating how grateful he felt. At the grain store, Pete Larson slapped his shoulder. "Heard you got a bride, Cal. Bet she keeps you fed, huh?" His eyes lingered on Fiona's figure. Caleb's fists tightened, but Fiona spoke first. "The best meals he's ever had," she said, chin high. "A hard-working man deserves proper care." The men chuckled awkwardly, their jabs deflected. Caleb felt a mix of pride and shame. By Saturday, the tension peaked. Fiona had drawn a bath, hanging a quilt for privacy. Caleb tried not to picture her behind it, water glistening on her skin, but when she emerged, cheeks flushed, hair curling damply, his breath caught. Her nightgown hugged her softly. Without a word, he bolted to the barn like a startled foal. Sunday brought the preacher, Reverend Hayes, and the wedding. Fiona wore a green wool dress that fit her perfectly, her hair pinned to show her strong jaw. She looked bold, resilient, a woman forged by grit and survival. The ceremony was brief. Jim Larson stood as witness, smirking. When Caleb slid Eliza's old ring onto Fiona's finger, his chest tightened, but there was no turning back. "You may kiss your bride," Reverend Hayes said. Caleb aimed for her cheek, but Fiona turned, and their lips met, warm, soft, startling. He pulled back, rattled by the flutter in his chest. "Well, Cal," Jim said, grinning, "here's to a sturdy marriage bed." Fiona flushed but held her head high. The lunch she'd prepared was simple but hearty. Caleb noticed her hands shake slightly as she poured tea, and for the first time he wondered what this cost her. That night, the unspoken question loomed. Caleb stood in the parlor, awkward. "You'll want to move your things to the bedroom. If that is what you want," she said, her eyes searching his. "It is what is expected. We're married." Something flickered in her face, fear, maybe hope, but it vanished. "Aye, we're married," she said softly. In the narrow bed, the frame groaned under them. Caleb clung to the edge, half expecting it to collapse. Fiona lay rigid, her breathing shallow, as if holding herself apart. "I know I am not what you wanted," she whispered in the dark. The words cut deep. He thought to deny it, to offer comfort, but his pride held him back. "We'll manage," he said. Her sigh filled the silence, and she turned away. The bed creaked but held, like the shaky start of their marriage, strong enough to endure, though not what he'd envisioned. The storm hit without warning. One moment, the Montana sky was clear. The next, it turned a sickly green, wind howling across the hills. Caleb was mending fences when dust swallowed the horizon. He spurred his horse toward the homestead, grit burning his eyes. Through the haze, he saw Fiona at the barn, wrestling with the goats. "Get inside," he yelled, But the wind stole his voice. She did flee. Instead, she pointed to the henhouse, its door flapping, chickens scattering. Before he could stop her, she ran into the storm. Together, they battled the chaos-herding birds, securing barn doors, stuffing sacks to block the sand. When they stumbled into the house, coughing and battered, Caleb saw blood on her cheek from a gash. He reached out instinctively. "You were hurt." "It's nothing," she said, but her eyes softened as he pressed a damp cloth to her skin. For hours, they sat as the storm pounded the walls, tea cooling in their mugs. Caleb asked what he avoided. "Why do you come west, Fiona?" Her hands gripped the mug. "My folks passed. My brother got the shop. His wife made it clear I was in the way, too old, too stout for suitors. So I answered the ad." Caleb studied her in the firelight, her strong face, broad shoulders, her presence filling the room. "And you got a fool who asked for the opposite of you. At least you were straight about it," she said quietly. That honesty grew in the days that followed. When Caleb twisted his ankle fixing a gate, Fiona took over hauling water, feeding stock, even running out to check the herd. He grumbled, but she silenced him with a look. "Lose your cattle or your pride, Caleb?" He had no answer. Neighbors noticed her too. Children loved her. Women asked her advice. And men who mocked her size fell silent when she swung an axe or calmed a spooked horse. Caleb tried to ignore the warmth in his chest. But one starless night, everything shifted. Hooves woke him, rustlers, 5 men circling the barn. He grabbed his rifle, but Fiona was already loading the shotgun. "They after the mares," she whispered. "Stay here," he ordered. "Like hell," she snapped. In the yard, torches flared. Luke Tanner, a known outlaw, shouted, "Hand him over, Thornton, and no one get hurt." Before Caleb could answer, Fiona stepped forward, shotgun steady. "That close enough, lads. First man touches that barn answers to me." The rustlers laughed, but her aim held firm. When Tanner fired, a bullet grazed Caleb's arm. He stumbled, pain blinding him. Fiona shouted his name, standing over him like a shield. Her shot blew Tanner's hat off. "Want these horses? Come through me." Her voice, her fire, her precision broke their nerve. Cursing, the men fled. Only when silence returned did Fiona kneel beside Caleb, hands shaking as she bound his wound. "You could have died," she whispered. "So could you." He rasped. Her eyes shone. "I am not what you wanted, Caleb, but I am here. I'll fight for this place for you." He gripped her hand, rough and strong. "I see that now. I was a fool to want less." From that night, something changed. When winter came early, snow trapping them for days, they grew closer. They worked together, laughed at mishaps, shared stories by the fire. One evening, as the wind raged, Caleb cupped her face and kissed her, not from duty, but from truth. She kissed him back, and the walls between them fell. Months later, after wine and laughter one spring night, the old bed collapsed with a mighty crack. Boards splintered, the mattress tipped, and they tumbled together, laughing helplessly. Rancher wanted a slender bride. Caleb gasped, got a sturdy one who broke his bed instead. Fiona buried her face in his shoulder, laughing until tears fell. "They'll never let us forget it." "Let him talk," Caleb said, pulling her close. "I got the best damn wife a man could want." Years passed, and the homestead flourished. Children, as laughter filled the room, neighbors valued Fiona's wisdom and Caleb's steady hand. Together they built a life to withstand any storm. He asked for a slender, dutiful wife. What he got was Fiona, bold, brave, full of life, a woman who broke his bed and remade his world. And Caleb thanked the heavens every day that the West gave him not what he wanted, but what he needed. The maple bed they built together never broke, but their laughter, their love, and their story echoed across the hills, a reminder that sometimes the best things come when plans are shattered and hearts learn to see the truth. So, what did you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and please subscribe for more stories like this one.